Hello, everybody. Welcome to Comedy Film Nerds, episode 279.
Oh, my God. So many movies to talk about today. We went indie and demanded that our guests see Pixels. So
we got to see cool stuff, and we
punished our guest before he even got here.
This is what he gets. You want to be on the podcast? Well, you got to go see asshole bullshit.
So we're going to be talking about Pixels, and our guest's already angry. It's Such a Beautiful Day, Paper Towns, Lost Soul, Mr. Holmes, and some cool stuff coming out this week as well. But we got a lot of stuff to talk about too.
Let's introduce our guest because he is a part of some of our things.
Absolutely, ladies and gentlemen. He's a very fine comedian. He runs the Bridgetown Comedy Festival. He's also one of the partners of LA Podfest and is one of the hosts of the Probably Science podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, Andy Wood.
Hello, thank you for having me, gentlemen. Thank you.
nice radio voice.
Thank you for the assignment. I appreciate it. I'm not at all angry at being forced to sit through another the future will not look back kindly on late Adam Sandler. Like this period in his career,
it makes Billy Madison like, hey, that was fun.
Billy Madison was genuinely funny.
Yeah,
I mean, that was the first DVD I ever bought. Like I was a fan. Like so. For me, it's even harder to admit that he's fallen. And it's the same team that worked on that as all the rest of his great movies. Not all the rest. Happy Gilmore and Billy Madison, which are funny movies, the same team has worked on all these garbage ones for the last 20 years. I don't know where they lost their way, but...
Well, we'll get into it a little more.
Yes. It's fresh in my... I just got out of it. So... the trauma is fresh.
So we're going to have a little bit of an intervention with Andy, just kind of cool him down, talk him off the ledge. But we want to announce for LA Podfest that the live video stream is now available for purchase.
Now it's normally $25, but why would you pay full price?
Right.
There must be some other option, right? There must be some way to lower that. Is there?
Why don't we do a coupon code that saves $5?
Let's do that coupon.
So yeah, if you use coupon code CFN, you get $5 off, or if you use coupon code whatever Science, that's Andy's show, you get $5 off. So you're getting for $20, you're getting all 40-some shows and panels.
Yes.
Live the whole weekend, and then we will archive all of them for 3 weeks. So for basically about a month, you get video access to everything that was done at the festival, except for the earbud screening and the stand-up comedy show.
Yes.
Those you have to come see.
And the parties.
Sorry.
We should live stream the parties then.
Just ha-ha. Look at all these fun things we're doing.
Look, I have a drink ticket.
Yeah, what are you drinking? We have chicken skewers or whatever. Shrimp on a stick. So yeah, guys, that is available at lapodfest.com. The lineup of all the shows that have confirmed is there. We're going to release a schedule pretty soon that has the actual schedule grid. Of course, that always changes a little bit as we get closer. Some shows.
And there are some hotel rooms left, and of course, passes to attend live. There are still passes left for that as well.
Yeah. So it's going to be, most assuredly Friday night opening show is going to be Doug Loves Movies, 7 o'clock, and we're going to show Earbuds a couple times. And
I mean, Friday alone, just to give you an idea, it's looking like Doug Loves Movies, Thrilling Adventure Hour, and the Earbud screening.
Yeah.
That's how we're kicking off the festival.
Yeah, so boom, in your face. Go to lapodfest.com, you guys, and of course, if you haven't already, subscribe to LA Podfest Twitter feed, which is at LA Podfest, and the Facebook page and Instagram and all that stuff, because especially Twitter is the best way to get constant updates as we get closer to the festival, because we're a little less than 2 months out. So that's it. Oh, I want to thank everybody that came out. I did shows at the Surf City Comedy Club in Huntington Beach. That was a lot of fun. And when I mean thank everybody that came out, I mean specifically Neil and Aaron.
Neil said he saw you. He said it was a good show.
It was fun. It's a cool little comedy club. It's pretty new, and they had a good turnout. So I think I hope that club works. So I don't know. Maybe there's some people who saw me that night for the first time, and now you're listening to this podcast.
It's entirely possible.
So thank you. And then everyone that came to see me open up for Doug Benson at the hashtag Lonks Pin in Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Wait, what?
It's the Looney Bin Comedy Club, but their graphic on stage looked like Lonks Pin. And I kept making fun of it. So then everyone in Tulsa, after the show, all of their posts had hashtag Lonkspin. Like the entire audience jumped up.
Spelling it the same. How do you spell Lonkspin?
Loonx. Because they spelled loony Loony and then bin, but it looked like Lonkspin.
Okay.
Like the Y looked like an X. They didn't use an E, and the B looked like a P.
This is how important fonts are.
Oh, it's so important, you guys. But yeah, thanks to everybody in Tulsa that came out. That was such a fun show. There was a guy, Charlie, that we brought on stage to play Last Man Stanton, one of the movie games from Doug's podcast. Charlie, who had a Podfest shirt from year 2.
Oh, nice.
Charlie from Tulsa, thanks for coming out. Yeah, so it was a lot of fun. So thanks to everyone that came out to that show.
It was kind of all worn where like he's never taken it off.
I think he's been sleeping in it for 3 years straight, so that's the impression I got.
That is awesome.
Thanks, Charlie, for...
Come and get a new one this year.
Come and get a new one. One of the things he brought up, which we should do, I don't know why we haven't done this, he goes, why don't you guys sell old Podfest shirts on the CFN store? Great idea, Tulsa. Sounds like something we're going to do. So we'll talk to, or at least have a link to Angelo's page or something. We got to take care of that. What the fuck are we doing? We sell everything else.
I thought we still had those for sale. We don't?
We do, but they're on a Stoy merchandise site.
Yeah,
okay.
We'll look into it.
He's just saying, this guy was saying you should put them on the CFN site.
Right.
So they are, if you want to go get them, go to astoymerchandise.com. But we got to have a fun.
Yeah, we'll take a look.
Why are we not getting a taste of this?
Yeah.
Get a little taste.
Just want to wet my beak a little bit, Andy. That's all I want. A little taste.
It's greasing palms, wetting beaks.
Just keeping the wheels of justice and commerce moving, buddy. That's what I'm doing.
So I think we've... I think we need to get right into Andy's vitriolic disappointment.
We got to get him. Yeah, he's got to process this trauma.
Yeah, this is like a debrief after being in like a firefight or something.
Right. Now, to be fair, let's set it up a little bit. Where it's a very fun short film. You could find the short film online. It's online. It's a couple minutes long. And you look at it like, I can't imagine that being a feature. But, however, when you take retro gaming and big budget sci-fi, there is a way to make it, I don't know, watchable.
Oh, I could see this being a great movie in different hands. Yeah. It's
like the guy who made Scott Pilgrim.
Is that Edgar Wright?
Yeah, I think it was Edgar Wright.
It's a great example, yeah.
Like if Edgar Wright was Scott Pilgrim versus the World, let me bring that up real quick. Yeah, that's definitely Edgar Wright. That to me, like if you had Edgar Wright, the version of this would be like, we would all be like, we would have seen one trailer and gone, I'm in.
Yes.
Like, let's do it. And
or even like take, sometimes these animation directors are actually transitioning into live action now. Like take the, take the Wreck-It Ralph directors.
Another great example.
And then you could have them do this.
Oh my God, I forgot about Wreck-It Ralph. That was just a phenomenal movie. And this is the polar opposite of that. But
okay,
Wreck-It Ralph was directed by Rich Moore.
Oh, okay.
And he also was part of the people that wrote it. And, Rich Moore also, was a writer of Big Hero 6. He wrote The Simpsons. So, that's what you're talking about. He's coming from an animation world. And so he molded those worlds very well in Wreck-It Ralph.
Right.
Now, let's talk about not doing
Let's
that.
talk about destroying the world.
Tell us, Andy, what happened.
So the premise is that we sent out a probe in 1982 that had a bunch of footage of different things that humans do, including playing video games and including a tournament that we see in the opening scene in which Adam Sandler barely loses to a teenage Peter Dinklage in the World Championships of Donkey Kong. So we sent out this probe in 1982. Aliens saw it and took it as a call to arms and thought we wanted to kill them. And so they come at us with what they think the challenge is, which is all of the bad guys from classic video games. So it makes zero sense.
With the exception of Pac-Man.
With the exception of Pac-Man, in which case they come at us as Pac-Man. Is that what you mean? Because it wasn't
because
the
it was
bad
all
guy?
Pac-Man was the good guy. In the
Right.
game.
So in the rest of the cases, like the centipede's coming down, we have to shoot him, or Donkey Kong's throwing barrels. But for some reason, Pac-Man is the bad guy, and then the good guys are driving Mini Coopers that are ghosts somehow. Like it makes zero sense. But like the dumbest stuff isn't even the main plot, but just like the opening scene is.
Wait a minute, I'm confused because this was directed by Christopher Columbus,
Who's made great movies?
Yeah.
Home Alone, right? I mean, he's done so many great. Is it Uncle Buck-him, or is that?
Yeah, he's done. Oh God, he did Mrs. Doubtfire. He did Home Alone 2.
He did the Percy Jackson movies.
Sure, he did Bicentennial Man.
Yeah.
I mean, he's done.
Chris
really,
Columbus is a horrible director.
Okay.
He's had a couple of. Well, wow, how did that sneak through?
Yeah. There was a couple ones that like, I could see why someone would hire him after that movie.
He did the first Harry Potter, I think, right?
He did Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, and he
He
did
did the two of them, the first
Chambers
two.
of Secrets.
Mm-hmm.
Which aren't horrible. They aren't great, but okay. And then it's also it's written. Yeah, this is written by Tim Herlihy, former SNL writer who collaborates on every Sandler movie. And I don't understand how the same guys that made Billy Madison and Happy Gilmore, which I will totally defend to this day, went on to make Grown Ups. And first of all, this is bad, and everyone's saying it's the worst thing ever. It's not as bad as Grown Ups. I had to see Grown Ups also.
Wow.
Because I was dating a girl who loved Adam Sandler, and afterwards I just crossed my arms and looked at her, but really? Really? Do you still love Adam Sandler?
Please tell me that's when you broke up with her, right?
That was
In the
last-
lobby after Grown Ups.
After Grown Ups.
Or was it when she said Kevin James is underrated?
Oh, you mean President James?
That's right.
You mean President? So opening scene,
movie.
young Adam Sandler, young Kevin James are at this tournament, and they're bested by young Peter Dinklage. Smash cut, Kevin James is the President of the United States. And he's having a beer with Adam Sandler, who is a Geek Squad equivalent dude at some no-name company. And it just gets worse from there. And they have an establishing shot of the president. I guess they're trying to make him like a George Bush, lovable idiot, because they have him reading to these kids and he can't pronounce the words, and it's on CNN. They're in the bar and they see the footage of the president trying to read to these kids in a kindergarten, and he's messing everything up. But then it cuts to the kids' reactions as if CNN had a multicam set up. This is stuff like that bothers me more than everything else for some reason. It's so lazy. Dan Aykroyd is the moderator of the video game championship. So of course later on there's a celebratory scene where they crack open a bottle of Crystal Head vodka, which is the brand that Dan Aykroyd owns. It's the lamest. Okay, another little shit that gets to me. Peter Dinklage, for some reason, has a horrible Southern accent and
a giant mullet.
And a giant mullet. And at some point he says, "Here comes the cavalry," which is a pet peeve of mine. It's cavalry. And any movie that gets that wrong, I instantly nobody even proofread the script. The special effects, they were kind of cool. You saw, if listeners have seen that 10-minute, I forgot the name of the guy who made this 10-minute video that's gone viral about how awful Pixels is. But I saw that and I was almost I kind of want to see this movie because the effects at least look kind of cool. Every effect is in the trailer. All the rest of it is just horrible dialogue between Michelle Monaghan and Adam Sandler.
Wow.
Hubert is in it for zero reason except that Hubert is cute. They have the most arbitrary rules. They'll win something and then the aliens will send down a trophy. And Josh Gad gets rewarded with a girlfriend who's from a made-up video game. And I can't believe they got the rights to all these games. They got the rights to all the classic Atari games.
Here's the thing that, I had this conversation with somebody. A lot of these classic games it's like one company. Namco owned a certain amount.
Yeah.
And then Nintendo will own a certain amount. It's not how crazy splintered it is now. It's you have a lot of these classic games. They're on you can get one disc and they have a bunch of them on there. Atari is Centipede and all that stuff. So I think it was easier, especially to get the classic ones. It was harder for Wreck-It Ralph for them to get Mario and the ones that are still kind of in use.
Those were in here too, though. So Nintendo signed off on that shit too.
Right, but I know there was some with Wreck-It Ralph. They're well, what's the characters going to do? What are they? There was a lot of rights issues there. But it seems like it was easier for some reason here to get the rights to these. Maybe because they were classic games or whatever. But turns out it looks like they shouldn't have given the rights to this movie.
Yeah, it's inexplicable. I mean, everybody knows Adam Sandler makes garbage now. The Sony leaked internal email. Have you seen that? Sony Entertainment, they got hacked and they had an internal email.
Oh, it said, he has no value.
Writing to each other saying, we all know this guy makes garbage, right?
Right.
Like, yeah, so.
That was a big revelation.
Like,
oh my God, can you believe what they said?
It's so funny to me because it's like, whatever it was 10 years ago, Punch Drunk Love, and you went, okay, right? We're going to start seeing more of this type of Adam Sandler. Like, we're going to get away from this. Like, great, that's what he did in the 90s. Awesome. You jumped from Saturday Night Live to Happy Gilmore. Great. Right. Awesome. Now let's fucking move forward. And
are you going to be Bill Murray, maybe? Are you going to have this late career resurgence?
Right, exactly.
Well, the answer is no.
Right.
And it's like he keeps... And all of these movies just feel slapped together. They all feel like their first drafts. Like some of those... Like in a writer's room just goes, how about a southern accent and a mullet? Yes, done. Yeah. Like no one went, wait a minute.
Like I've seen a lot of the reviews too saying like, God, Adam Sandler looks so bored. Like he literally phoned it in. Like
he doesn't want to be there. Yeah.
And it's a great thing. Like, hey, aren't you getting paid millions of dollars to do this?
But I'm not at a lake house with my friends.
Yeah,
so
and it was great. If you're not interested in this movie, why should we be?
Yeah.
Well, that's the other thing I don't understand. Then, like, we've had this discussion. I just don't like. Why? Is it just you just have to pay for the lifestyle, the $20 million beach houses? So you have to crank these things out? Like, what the fuck? What is motivating you to do this?
I think it's just that he's created a little cottage industry with Happy Madison, and he has friends who now rely on him. So he just has to make a movie every year or two just to like keep his friends working.
Were there any good video game surprises like a good like Cubert? Like was there anything like
can
that?
Can I spoil? Like no one's going to watch this.
No,
who's listening, right?
No.
So yeah, the whole plot. Like,
spoiler alert, guys! Here it comes. Get ready. We're going to ruin the movie.
There are only 3 battles. It's a best out of 3 tournament.
There's only 3 battles in the entire film.
I mean, there's 2 attacks that we don't see coming, and they just destroy. And they say now we're up 2-1. It's a best 3 out of 5 or something.
So it's kind of like a tournament, the invasion.
Yeah. So they
makes even more sense.
They attack us with Galaga, and we aren't ready to respond at all.
Okay.
And that somehow rallies the troops. The president calls in Sandler to the Oval Office to look at the footage. He says, "Do you recognize this at all?" And his whole thing was he could recognize patterns in video games, is why he was a champion.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So he's like, "I see the pattern in this. I also see that it was the 82 version of Galaga, not the 86, because they redid it." And there's one more attack on the Taj Mahal. I forgot what the video game is. That's on...
Like Tetris or something?
Sure, probably, yeah. Mm-hmm. And then they finally bring in Sandler, trust him to like teach all the Marines to play video games. They develop these laser cannons that they realize shoot the pixels. They're not even pixels, they're voxels. There's a word for a 3-dimensional version of a pixel. A pixel with volume is a voxel. A movie should be called voxels. Those are the blocks that make up any 3D animated movie. Pixels are 2-dimensional strictly.
Listen to the Probably Science podcast, you guys.
I'm too analytical, I know, but still, like, it's just so... Okay, so then...
I love that those are your biggest gripes.
The movie should be called Voxels. That is perfect. That is a perfect movie. Just rename it Voxels, and I'm happy. And then Pac-Man attacks. And Centipede attacks.
Centipede, okay.
And then Pac-Man, and then Donkey Kong. And that's all that happens in the entire movie. The rest of it is, like, wide shots of carnage, where you'll see like a Times Square for like 2 seconds, and you'll see, if you paused it, you'd see 5 different characters you recognize, like Frogger and the Joust ostriches or whatever those are.
Got it.
But aside from that, it's just like 3 battles, and then a lot of like really dumb back and forth between Sandler and Michelle Monaghan because he thinks she's a snob because he wouldn't make out with her when he was at her house to install their TV. It's
now, like, was this in the movie or real life?
It's so awful. God. And then the reward that Peter Dinklage gets is a threesome with Martha Stewart and Serena Williams, and they're on the lawn of the White House presenting medals to everybody, and he looks up and sees them in a window in the White House waiting for him to come fuck them, I guess. It's a PG movie, but it's
so he's gonna have a 3-way in the White House.
Yes, presumably that's what happens at the end.
There's like no one involved in this has the ability to say, that's not funny. We should rewrite this or come up with something better.
Is Adam Sandler now a comedy George Lucas? Where it's just like he's so off the rails.
No one reins him in.
No one reins it. Where it's just like, I mean, Jack and Jill, I can't even imagine anyone wanting to see that film, let alone sitting through it.
I can't. The jokes just make none of them make any sense.
So it makes you wonder, too, like, is that, how how many times are you going to keep funding, this Adam
this
Sandler
one,
movie?
this one finally is the first I think that's not doing well, or maybe Blended failed, but this one's not.
I don't think Jack and Jill did so well.
But how do they keep getting?
Because he's always done well in video release or whatever.
Yeah.
But that was what kept him going in the 90s and the early 2000s.
I met with that company when that happened, and they were telling me basically their business model is that a movie like Joe Dirt, where it's made for a couple $1 million, it gets its money back in the first weekend, or let's say it's an $8 million film and it only does $4 million opening weekend. It's like, oh, well, we're halfway back to what we put in it. Right. The key was to keep the budgets low, and then they all would make a lot of money. The one really disappointment they had was the one Little Nicky, because it had all these effects and it was more expensive, and no one liked it. Yeah. So, but
Little Nicky still made money overseas, and back then it was DVD and stuff. Now it's all VOD, but he still makes money that way.
You guys may not even know this, but they just released straight to video on demand a sequel to Joe Dirt.
I did see that.
That literally just came out too, so great. I'm sure that's also doing great. I'm sure it's getting great reviews too. But, Andy, I don't know. We have to thank you for taking the bullet on that one. Yeah. We couldn't even get any reviewers to do a written review.
Yeah, thank you for telling us about voxels.
Yes.
Well, I think your listeners will appreciate that I understand how three-dimensional rendering works. But
you know what? Our listeners will. Yeah. We get a lot of technical emails, too, especially from visual effects people.
I can't. And this cost a lot. I heard they spent almost $100 million on this. Do you have a budget on that?
Yeah, I'm sure a lot of that was in bloated salaries, too. Yeah, I mean, how much actually went to the VFX team?
So this one's going to lose
according the estimated budget on IMDb is $88 million. The gross for the weekend has been $30 million.
Last question. Did you ever actually get to see the aliens?
No. You just saw the video game versions of themselves they sent.
So just the weapons that they sent. You never actually see what was sending them.
Which are made of, quote, light and energy, according to Michelle Monaghan in an expository scene. Like, excellent. Okay, what does that mean? Conventional weapons don't work because they're light and energy. Oh, and
what's this?
Are you guys worried that this might? We're talking about the budget of it. And my main concern with Pixels is that this might throw a wrench in the works for Ready Player One getting made. Are you guys fans of that book?
Oh yeah, I heard about that. That's supposed to be. When was that supposed to come out? What was the story on?
I don't know.
That's still in development. That's an unbelievably huge rights issue. Because Ready Player One doesn't just do video games. It literally is all of 80s culture. So you have everything needs to be licensed, from the video games to Dungeons and Dragons to War Games, the movie. Like there's a scene in the book where they actually go into War Games, the movie, and recite the dialogue. So there's all sorts of rights issues. But the problem is if you don't get those rights, it destroys the core of the book.
Yeah.
So I don't know. The only one that could maybe pull it off is Spielberg, who's directing it. But it's not. I don't think it's gotten very far. I don't think it's in production yet.
Yeah, and I'm sure. I would hope this wouldn't affect it, but it's just a bummer to see a thing that's sort of similarly mining 80s nostalgia, but doing it so poorly that it might sour audiences.
Well, I'm hoping that won't happen, and one of the reasons too is because of Spielberg. If you've got skittish executives, they might just this did bad. Now we got to cancel Ready Player One, because Ready Player One, those rights were bought a while ago. It's been taking a long time just to get it this far to get Spielberg attached.
I also think if you, like you said, if Spielberg's attached, and then there isn't. This is a one-off bust. Like we said, Wreck-It Ralph and Scott Pilgrim did well.
Yes.
So I think,
and creatively they were good.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I think this is the sort of the result of, since Wreck-It Ralph and all that, there's this, we got to do one of these, which is probably part of the motivation impetus for this short film, which then, my point is, I think this is a trend.
This is just an unholy abomination of Chris Columbus, Happy Madison.
But I think it's going to be a speed bump within this 80s nostalgia.
I think so too. I think you're right.
Not going to affect it. And I think too that Sony email, I think hopefully you got people, in these positions at the studios going, well, I'm Sandler.
Yeah.
Or I've never understood somebody who gets this much money and power that then creatively doesn't just say, there's so many examples of people who just went, I made my money doing this. Now I'm gonna.
Yeah.
Right.
But there's also like pro athletes who have an entourage to take care of. They got to bring up their whole family, and that's what this is. I think he has hangers on.
Honestly, that's his fault. Then I mean, if you're making shitty product to support your entourage, what's wrong with you?
You know what I mean? And it's also just like, then stop doing that. I mean, Matthew McConaughey lived in a trailer, went surfing, and then probably on a wave went, I'm done making rom-coms, and I'm going to start doing really good movies. He didn't have a bunch of hangers on going, hey, when's the next Joe Dirt 6?
Another failure to launch.
Yeah.
All right.
So we go to now. Since Andy took the hit on the big studio disaster of the summer, we actually went indie and we saw a bunch of cool indie movies. Now the first one,
these were great, Andy.
I want to talk about. You really like these.
Living vicariously through you guys.
It's the first one I saw was It's Such a Beautiful Day, and this is actually an animation from Don Hertzfeldt. And Don Hertzfeldt is an animator. He's an animator who's been around for many years. Yeah. And when I watched this is kind of cobbled together a little bit from a couple of the short films to kind of get it to feature length, and he added new material to it. But his stuff is amazing. I love it. It's hilarious. It's inventive. And he does it mostly with stick figures. That's what's so great. He's been nominated for Academy Awards. But when I watched this movie, it really brought me back to speaking of nostalgia, to the 90s when you really couldn't see cool animation unless you went into a movie theater and caught at an art house like an Animation Celebration or Spike and Mike's Sick and Twisted Animations.
That's how I knew Spike and Mike,
And when you it was like an event. It was cool. You got a bunch of your friends together and you would go down. I remember in college going, and it was always look forward to the next one. There's always such cool, inventive animation.
Yeah.
And he was always such a big part of it, his stuff. And there was always a bunch of other animators that we would look forward to as well. And it kind of reminded me of that. It brought me back to kind of that time. This is where you could actually see cool animation.
Seeing the first Beavis and Butthead baseball.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And what it was is this movie is basically, it's not really a film as much as like kind of an experimental feature-length animation almost. It's more of, and it's a little over an hour. It's kind of in between short and feature, but I think he put it enough together to make it kind of qualify as a feature. But it's very stream of consciousness, and it's metaphysical, and it's often hilarious, but it's literally just him animating, this character who's slowly losing his mind, and he narrates it. The animator, it's his narration. So you can tell it's very personal, it's very metaphysical, and it's very experimental, but it's also very, very funny, especially in parts. And just the animation and just the subtle movements he makes with these stick figures. That's why he's such a genius animator. So no going in. If you're a fan, you're going to like it. And it's streaming right now. You can check it out. But also, don't expect a feature-length film with a story, of beginning, middle, and end. No, it's still kind of experimental. It's still fun, but it's definitely worth a view, especially if you're a fan of Don Hertzfeldt and specifically the animation that you used to go to theaters to actually watch as part of those celebrations. And Bill Plimpton was another one. You would always see his stuff.
Yeah, Bill Plimpton is and he does it all himself also. It's all hand-drawn, entire features.
Right.
That guy's a genius.
So definitely check it out. It's such a beautiful day.
All right. I saw Paper Towns.
Now, I can't wait to hear what movie this was. Was it a coming-of-age teen drama? Was it a coming-of-age teen comedy? Was it a thriller? What was this movie?
It was a little bit of all of that.
Oh, interesting. In a good or bad way?
In a good way. Definitely a good way. I will say this. I mistakenly went into this hoping for it to be like Fault in Our Stars.
Got it. Mm-hmm.
It's not that. Mm-hmm. That is just this emotional, very intense, very these are kids facing death, though they're not quirky teens.
Right,
they have this really her I forget, I'm blanking on the lead character, the lead actress's name, but who's a very
Cara Delevingne?
No.
Exactly.
In Fault of Our Stars.
Okay.
Johnny blah 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 blah.
Yeah, not Cara Delevingne, but yeah, the lead in Fault in Our Stars, her character is obviously very dark, and it's just which colors the movie in such a good way. Paper Towns is a teen movie, and it's more like Spectacular Now.
Okay, which is a great movie.
Which is a great movie. Then, I think you got to just put Fault in Our Stars just separately. It's because that's not a teen movie. That's a cancer movie that has teenagers in it. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Paper Towns is a really cool teen movie. It does have have the lead guy, Nat Wolff. He's a good lead. The little nerd group, there's really funny moments. There's very like cute high school moments in there. And he's chasing this girl, and it is that like to me it brought me back to like being in high school, and the first girl I ever like truly fell for, and she was kind of a wild child, and we would go on these, I'd chase her around because I was like, oh my God, this is the first girl that ever I got to have sex with or whatever. So, there was a lot of that. So that was kind of cool. But it's just sort of nice. It's cute. It's like, so don't go in expecting Fault in Our Stars, and I think you'll have a pretty cool experience, and these are all good young actors, and it goes into like friendship, and they're all kind of quirky outsiders. There's just some hilarious shit in there. Like one kid's I won't spoil this for you, but he has his parents have a weird thing in their house, so he's like embarrassed to show it, and they're nerdy guys, but not like the stereotypical nerdy guys. And there is kind of a thriller, like trying to find her when she does disappear.
That's not the main plot point of the movie, though.
Yeah, well, it does. Well, the second half of the movie is
finding her,
trying to find her, but it's really about, it is coming in the trying to find her is the coming of age of these kids, and
is it like an Into the Night movie? Is it like over the course of one night, that last act? Or?
The last act does have like we got 36 hours to go find her and come back before prom.
Because she disappears, and then there's like clues to like what happened to her.
Yeah.
Because that's in the trailer.
Right. So that's intriguing. It's a good little movie. It's a nice little film. Like Fault in Our Stars, I thought should have gotten more Oscar consideration. I don't think this deserves Oscar consideration, but it's a good film.
But it kind of genre bends a little bit.
It genre bends a little bit, and the John Green, the author of these books, I like his. I haven't read his books, but so far the two adaptations of his books I like. Mm-hmm. So like if they do another one of his books into a movie, I'll probably go see it.
Right.
So
and they both take place in this day in 2015, presumably.
Yeah.
So how do they play? Because I've always wondered about if you wrote a teen movie now, like how much would you be obligated to make it about the tech that is everyone's lives now? You know what I mean? Like, is that in it, or is that?
That's interesting because that I read online that's one kind of criticism of Paper Towns. Like Fault in Our Stars, a big part of the story is her and this guy texting at night.
Okay. And
you see that's part of their relationship, which is what you're talking about. This movie doesn't have these kids on it that much. But it does stuff like they walk into a dark place to look for her and they don't have a flashlight. Doesn't matter. One of them pulls out their iPhones and it's got the flashlight app. Mm-hmm. So there is some of that. I mean, you could make a criticism that, these kids should have been buried in their phones a lot more. The way, but
it just makes for a bad movie. Like you can't showing text screens on. No one's figured out a great way to do that yet in movies. You pop it
but
up.
It's not compelling at all. To watch someone look at a small screen is not visually interesting.
I'm not saying you should do it. I'm just saying like that. It is real human behavior now. So
you have to deal with that. How do you deal with that? Yeah. And I think Fault in Your Stars did it the right way.
Yeah,
having the things pop up and then seeing the person's reaction to them.
Did they do that way where it popped up on the screen?
They didn't do it. They barely used it. They barely used any of that in Paper Towns. But I was okay with it.
Yeah.
Because it was just sort of a director's choice. Like, let's make it more about these kids, their interaction, and this guy's, why is he searching for this girl, and what does that mean for him internally?
Yeah.
So that was cool. So
cool.
Check it out.
Well, I saw also a documentary, Lost Soul, The Doomed Journey of Richard Stanley's Island of Dr. Moreau. This was a fascinating documentary.
Is this about that movie?
About the, how the Val Kilmer, Marlon Brando movie completely imploded from the beginning to end.
What is it about Marlon Brando that makes him part of these debacles?
Well, and Marlon Brando was only a small part of this complete disaster. What was fascinating is how many forces aligned to make sure this movie was never going to be watchable, ever, at all. There's nothing that could have made this watchable. In fact, even when they're interviewing the New Line executives, they're saying, we would have lost more if it never got finished, which is what we thought. I mean, we lost money on the movie, but it would have been worse had it never been finished. And Richard Stanley is a really interesting character. When you see him on screen, you realize that he is definitely bordering between genius and insanity. And some scenes he seems very lucid, like, oh, okay, yeah, you know what you're talking. Other scenes you're like, oh, he's out of his fucking mind. Mm-hmm. There's no way. Like he's talking about witchcraft and, crazy. He had, a shaman help him with a development meeting and, things like that. Okay, I got it.
There we go.
How did he get hired? What else?
Well, here's the interesting thing. Like he was coming off of a little sci-fi movie called Hardware that actually did very well. In fact, HBO, I remember seeing it on HBO many years ago.
Yeah, it came out in 1990. The head of a cyborg reactivates and rebuilds itself and goes on a violent rampage in a space marine girlfriend's apartment.
Yeah, so it was...
Space Marine?
Sure.
But
you heard right. Space Marine.
It was a very low
Standard
budget.
thing.
It like kind of took some of like the stuff from Terminator and made it very low budget, but it had a style and a vision, and it actually had you could see a lot of talent in like the director at the time, and he was younger, but it never materialized. Yeah. So it starts off by him Bruce Willis was supposed to star in this movie. It was supposed to be like Bruce Willis, Marlon Brando, and like James Woods. That's how this movie was supposed to be. And then it just started disintegrating from there. And then once Val Kilmer came on board, like he was apparently just complete like egomaniac. In fact, and eventually though they fired Richard Stanley, but that was only
And Frankenheimer came on.
Frankenheimer came on, and he was a complete tyrant on the set. And he was saying like him and Val, nobody would get along with anybody. Nobody even wanted to talk to anybody. He said there was one part where there was no shooting being done because Marlon Brando said, I'm not leaving my trailer until Val Kilmer leaves his trailer. And Val Kilmer goes, I'm not leaving my trailer until Marlon Brando leaves his. And all the extras were in this prosthetic makeup they've been in for hours. I'm like, come on, what's going on? So it was unbelievable. Everything from a storm destroying the entire set. But it's a fascinating story. It really is. I mean, the documentary itself is decent. It's not like this amazing thing. Like, I mean, there's a lot of these movies that show how disastrous productions end up, and some of them, I mean, not all of them are based around Terry Gilliam, but a fair amount of them are. The Hamster Factor, but and Lost in La Mancha never even got finished.
Wait, the movie about the movie?
Lost in La Mancha got finished, but the actual movie never got finished.
Every once in a while, though, you get like where it worked, like Apocalypse Now, and that documentary Hearts of Darkness is an amazing documentary because you go, all this crazy shit, and he still came up with an amazing movie.
Yeah. Right, and that's amazing when that happens. Like when you see everything from, the director, like the first director, like just not even showing up for meetings, not wanting to go for meetings, like wandering around Hollywood, just lost and calling like, I don't know where I am, like things like that. And then eventually getting fired, and then Frankenheimer coming on board, and then not being able to deal with Val Kilmer. There's one quote where he says, God damn it, if I was making a movie, The Life of Val Kilmer, I wouldn't hire that asshole. So, and you see like the insider, all the nonsense that happens in Hollywood, and you think, the millions of dollars that are not just being spent, they're literally being thrown into a monsoon is really literally what's happening here. And you have all these surrounded, like literally there's shots of like the director surrounded by sketches like a crazy person, like it's like an asylum. That's what it looks like. And all these crazy horror ideas of like, pig women and all this weird, bizarre stuff that like, oh yeah, they thought it was a little too controversial. Like you talk in this weird, very, very subdued tone, but it's a fascinating it and you look at it like too, like how the actors wanted to quit, but then there's some of the extra actors were like, no, it's like it was like a big party. We would just kind of hang out and have sex with each other because they were in the middle of nowhere. In fact, they were an hour from like the closest hotel in Australia, so they were literally deep into the jungle. And they said it got so stupid where they were an hour into the jungle and they planted banana trees because it was a banana plantation. Like we're in the jungle and we planted more jungle. So,
and the extras were just like, well,
yeah. Yeah, and
I thought it was going to be a 3-week shoot, and I worked for 9 months.
Yeah, and that's literally what they said. Yeah, I thought this was going to be 3 weeks. I've been here for like 4 or 5 months, literally. And then you put the makeup on, but then if somebody doesn't come out of their trailer, they're just literally sitting in their makeup for a while.
Getting paid,
though.
Overtime, time and a half after 12 hours.
Exactly. And Marlon Brando, like, is having these discussions like, never, because obviously they don't interview Marlon Brando for this, but everyone's recounting like what he said to them. Stuff like, I never read the script, and it doesn't matter, everything. It doesn't matter how the characters relate. I just, and it was his idea to, like, put the ice bucket on his head and all this crazy shit.
He started the ALS Ice Bucket Challenge? That's amazing.
Yep. Back in 96.
So it's a fascinating watch because I'm sure if you're listening to this podcast, you've seen the Val Kilmer, Marlon Brando Island of Dr. Moreau, and you've always wondered, what the fuck happened to this movie? And
is it worth I've never seen it.
Oh my God!
Really?
It's unbelievable.
I think you got to watch this documentary first,
and then watch the movie,
and then because it'll make it amazing.
Like, then you'll go, I remember them talking about this part that just happened, and then you also see the sad part was that this basically broke Richard Stanley. I mean, he's never made another movie after that, or he's if he has made anything, it's been like very just small scale kind of stuff. Like he's never made he's never made another studio movie. He's been out of the system. And it was one of those things too. It was almost like watching someone get PTSD, like from this experience. Like you literally saw him. Like
Val Kilmer gave him PTSD.
Yeah, it literally looked that way. Like you see, like the old footage of like him on the set and stuff, and then when they interview, because they do interview him for the movie, and you see like, God, this guy, as he's recounting what's happening, is like this just kind of broke him. What happened?
So PTKD. Kilmer disorder.
Post-traumatic Val Kilmer disorder. Hashtag
PTKD.
Have you guys seen Overnight? I haven't seen that, but about the guy who directed Boondock Saints.
No. Oh, I heard about that.
Yeah, I've heard similar things. I shouldn't have brought up something I haven't seen. But.
No, it's send our audience to see it. So it's definitely a fun documentary to watch, especially if you've seen the film. And what's weird about this documentary is, as shocking and surprising as everything that you're hearing, after you've seen the film, none of it really surprises you when you hear, I kind of saw that on screen, that how this completely just,
when the first time you watched it, you went, what the... Yeah. What had to have happened?
Yeah, exactly. And then you're like,
monsoon, egos, and insanity. Great. Got it.
Now I get to hear it exactly how it unfolded.
All right. So I saw Mr. Holmes. Mm-hmm. This movie's decent. It's all good performances by everybody. I don't know that it's this amazing. I see why they released it in the summer, because they probably went, it's not good enough for an Oscar.
But it's basically a character study.
It's a character study. Mm-hmm. He does there's some interesting stuff in terms of flashbacks to his story. And everyone's good in it. There's just some scenes that are just kind of like, oh, okay. Like I didn't go, oh, what a disaster. They totally missed the mark. Mm-hmm. But I just went, okay. It's. Do you rush out to see this movie? I can't say to do that. I would say there are good. Like Ian McKellen's performances and Laura. His performances are great. He's always good in what he does.
Now it's an aging Sherlock Holmes, but is it him kind of correcting the story? Is there like the course of the film, or is it more just him kind of dealing with his memoirs and looking back on his life?
He is. Powers.
Having a little technical issue.
Some technical issues. Yeah, it's part of that. It is getting old, and is he losing his memory? Is his body starting to fail him? So there's that. And he's trying to remember this last thing. So that's interesting. They flash back and forth a little too much for me sometimes. Like I wish they would flash back and then just stay in the flashback and show me all of that. But I think the director was trying to go, well, this is what fading memory is like. You kind of remember, and then you pat back to today, and you don't remember all of it. Which was that's an interesting device to kind of show. Got slow a little bit in the second act, but overall, I think it's a decent movie. You know what I mean? I liked it. I think it's the kind of film like, if it's on TV or on a flight or something, or you watch it and it's interesting, unless you're like a crazy diehard Ian McKellen fan, I don't know that there's a reason to like rush out to go see it in the theater. But it's it's okay if you like
McKellen heads. You can go.
Yeah, all you McKellen heads, go get it.
And Sherlock Holmes fanatics.
Yeah, it is. If you're a Sherlock Holmes fanatic, you might it's probably interesting to you.
Okay.
So it flashes back to his memories of when he was Robert Downey Jr.
Doing kung fu. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. That's it. All right.
Doing a snatch fight.
Snatch fight. Doing a snatch fight.
Okay, so now, Andy, we want to talk about, you've been working on Jason Nash's films.
Yeah.
And he has a new one coming up, right?
He does. He has one coming. Well, it's going into production, I think, soon, called FML, a social media adventure, based on his recent Vine fame. He's become huge on the Vine app, which is mostly the province of like teenagers and people doing broad racial comedy. But he has like 2 million followers in there, and a lot of that is based on doing collaborations with other people that are big on there. So he put together this movie. It's a road trip involving a lot of these Vine celebrities. But 3 years ago, I worked with him on his movie Jason Nash is Married, which was originally going to be the second season of a web series he did. And he got together this incredible cast of like.
It's a great movie. I really enjoyed it.
You liked? Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
I didn't know you saw it. Thanks.
Yeah, because we had him on the show.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't know if he plays up the fact that it wasn't originally going to be a feature, or if that's not a thing we should be talking about. But I think it's interesting that these days you can make something. Yeah, you can make something that's that viable with a team of like 3 people. It was him, the cinematographer, co-EP, Robbie Subramanian, and I was doing sound and script coordination, and I got to be in a scene.
That's even less of a crew than we had. For you.
Oh yeah, it's 3 people. I mean, you can do it with a zoom and a good boom mic hooked up to it, and then the camera was like a T2i with a good lens, which is like a $500 camera. It's amazing. So I think it's a testament to how accessible everything is these days if you just have a good idea. And 20 super funny famous friends who were willing to
Yeah. That helps.
He got Andy Richter and John Benjamin were shooting in my house. That was a big thrill. There's a scene where you can.
Busy Phillips plays his wife.
Busy Phillips is his wife. Yeah. And everybody from T.J. Miller to Andy Daly to John Ross Bowie, Paul F. Tompkins. Paul F. Tompkins is the therapist.
Hilarious. Yeah.
Shut up! Here she comes.
Yeah.
My favorite therapist saying "Shut up." It was a ton of fun, and it was a great way to spend. It was the first summer that I was in LA, so it was I had stars in my eyes. But yeah, he's a great. He's a really interesting guy with a really unique take. A lot of his comedy is about him sort of being the stay-at-home dad, or just coming to terms with, because his wife is a very successful producer, and he's very successful in his own right, but in all these ways that he's had to scrape together himself, and so that kind of informs a lot of his art. Is that sort of like, I got to get something going for the family, I got to be a provider, right. And that's a through line in the new movie he's making also. So.
And then how's everything going with your guys' podcast? Because I know Jesse...
Yeah. So I do a podcast called Probably Science. I don't know how much crossover our listeners have. And we've been doing it for 4 years now. And Jesse Case, my roommate and a very funny comic, has been co-host for the last 3 of those, along with Matt Kirshen. And like a year and a half ago, he started getting really sick. He had, it's all digestive related, so I won't go into too much detail, but really bad stuff happening where you're like, I got to get this looked at. And he didn't do the typical male thing of like, I'm just going to tough it out. Like, he wanted to get diagnosed, and he was going to doctor after doctor, and they kept saying like, oh, maybe this is prostate related, maybe it's going to be colitis, maybe it's going to be, who knows. But they never gave him a colonoscopy. So like a year and a half, he was having these really bad symptoms, like blood, like things that, and he finally got a colonoscopy because he was 28 when this all started, or 27 maybe, and it's so rare to have. Well, anyway, so he got a colonoscopy 2 months ago, and it turned out it was colon cancer, and his colon was riddled with tumors, and they did a PET scan, and it had spread a little bit to his liver, so technically stage 4, so really bad news. And then he just instantly moved back to Nashville, where his mom works as a doctor at Vanderbilt. So he's getting great care back there. But it's been a weird transition, because for the last 2 months we've kept the podcast going while trying to be funny, but still acknowledging that one of my best friends and roommate and co-host is going through this, like, facing down the possibility of death. So he started his own podcast about it that's really funny, and it's not as bleak as it sounds. It's called
His
Jesse
tweets
versus
and shit are fucking hilarious, man.
Yeah, it's like it couldn't happen to it's perfect, as he says. Like, of course, as a comedian, I have to get ass cancer. Of course, like, what other cancer could I get but ass cancer? And he does a podcast called Jesse versus Cancer that is hilarious and not even that sad. He's got a great attitude about it, and he's getting good treatment. He's been going through chemo for 2 months. They'll do surgery after that. And the prognosis isn't great, but he's very okay with all the ways it might shake out, including if it ends up badly. He's like, well, yeah, like, if I don't die of this, I'll die of something later on. Like, he's very realistic about the whole thing. So it's been a tough 2 months for everyone on the Probably Science team. Obviously, way more so for Jesse, who's been lying on the floor throwing up from chemo. And
God.
But yeah, he really, in the times when he's coming out of it, like between cycles, he's getting on stage, and like, he's just got a great attitude about it. I don't know how I would be dealing with it as well as he is, and I think it's been a good source of inspiration and hope for people to listen to his podcasts and are dealing with cancer or have loved ones that have. But,
so it's Jesse versus Cancer.
JesseVersusCancer.com, JesseVSCancer.com, and it's in iTunes. Yeah, it's well worth checking out, as is our podcast. But and actually, yeah, we had it feels weird to plug ours after plugging his, but like, we had a college friend of mine who worked on the Pluto New Horizons flyby last week, and that was one of my favorite episodes we've ever done. It was super interesting hearing about all the things that had to go into designing this probe. It's been flying at 30,000 miles an hour for 9 years to go 3 billion miles. And have you seen the footage it's gotten of Pluto, those high-res pictures? Mm-hmm. Oh, it's amazing. We've never seen Pluto as more than a few pixels, not voxels, pixels, until this probe flew by. And that was last week's episode, if listeners want to go check out probablyscience.com.
All right.
To hear that one.
Cool, man.
Great.
Yeah.
All right, let's get to the DVDs.
Coming out on DVD and Blu-ray, Home. This is the animated movie where basically Jim Parsons from Big Bang Theory just kind of does the same exact character as an alien in an animated film.
He's like E.T. is stranded on Earth kind of
thing.
Right?
Yeah. Now, I have not seen it, so if you want to check that out. Justice League, Gods and Monsters. Now, I really like these DC animated features that come out. In fact, somebody was tweeting saying that, do you guys talk about those as much? And we've been talking about them, but there's been a few that's kind of slipped by. I think my favorite is still Under the Red Hood and the Flashpoint Paradox are probably two of my favorite ones, although Son of Batman I really like too. These come out like every few months. It's like a couple times a year these come out, and they're all PG-13. They're all more mature animated features. They're always a little short. Like, you always want a little bit longer. Like, they're kind of in that weird 70-some minutes long. Like, yeah. Could you get it to 85 or 90? Tell a little bit more story. You could give us a little more, but it's cost. It's expensive. Yeah. So, but they've always been. There's been a couple clunkers, but for the most part, they've all been pretty well done, and definitely want to check them out. They've been trying to make them a little more connected because they're putting out so many. For the last couple of years, they haven't. Now they're kind of starting to, so we'll see how that works out. But check that out, Justice League Gods and Monsters. That is coming out. They do something that is a little annoying where they release it on DVD for purchase only for a window, where just because it's coming out for DVD doesn't mean you could get it for like rental or anywhere yet. Like, a lot of times there's this weird window because they realize they made so much money by people not wanting to wait, they just buy it. So it has a weird release window. So this movie may not be on streaming or for even DVD rental yet, even though you could buy it now. So, but it's a strategy that must work because they keep doing it. They keep making this window. So, but check it out. And also The Water Diviner. Now, this is the Russell Crowe movie that you saw.
Yeah, I saw it. It's his first, movie that he's directed, a scripted. He's done, I guess, a couple of documentaries. It's about kind of based on a true story of an Australian guy who looks for his three sons after the Battle of Gallipoli in Turkey, which is a horrible battle in World War I. And there's some interesting stuff to it. I remember just sort of missed the mark a little, but this is actually kind of the perfect DVD type, see it on TV or video on demand or whatever, because it's got some interesting stuff in it. And it's got an interesting look at that war and World War I in particular, especially, when he's like trying to find his sons, and there's this scene where he's talking to this English officer who's like, and lists all these other giant battles that have happened in history. He goes, you know what we did with those battles? We dug a hole, we shoveled everybody in, and went through lime on it. Horses, soldiers, everything. This is the first war where people are like, hey, where's my son? So we'll do our best. And it's just like, wow, it gives it that sort of historical perspective.
Right.
That was pretty interesting.
Once a soldier died, he was gone.
He was gone. Yeah. There wasn't there was no burial, there was no ceremony, there was nothing. It was just like, you went to war, and if you came home back to the farm, then I guess you made it.
Right.
Like, that's how it was done. So yeah, it's interesting, and it's I'd like to see Russell Crowe direct some more stuff and see what he's had an interesting career, and I'm all for it. This is a good place to see this movie. It's DVD.
Oh, cool. Okay, now the Site Spotlight fan feedback. I got to mention this. We had a fan, and I put this on the Facebook fan page, recut an Asylum trailer because there's no comedy in the actual trailer, so no one knows it's a comedy. He recut a complete comedy trailer of all the scenes that I actually shot, wrote, and directed, and he made it like a Kevin Smith movie. And I'm like, I wrote and directed these scenes, but I want to see this movie now that he cut together.
I want to see that. This movie looks amazing.
So
all the great scenes with Dean.
Yeah, with Dean and Mike Schmidt. It's great. It's such a great trailer. So definitely check it out. And it's on the I posted it on the Facebook Comedy Film Nerds fan page, and I'll try to get the link on the message boards too. But it's great. Thank you.
Also, so other fan feedback. This is a great email we got from a woman by the name of Camille. Hello, and it's regards to the Amy Winehouse documentary.
Yes.
And me not liking the audio only choice that the director made. Mm-hmm. This is her response.
The audio only choice?
Yeah.
All B-roll.
All B-roll. In the movie Amy, there's like interviews of like her ex-boyfriend, her mom, her best friend, her former manager, and they're talking about all these moments of regret or whatever, and we never see their face.
It's just over B-roll of her walking around the streets of London or something.
Oh, yeah, or concert footage or whatever.
Okay.
Which they get all this great concert footage and you never see their face. My complaint was like, well, I want to see the emotion of this person's face. Yeah. And I think it was a missed opportunity. Now, here's another point of view on this. I loved Amy and just wanted to quickly address Graham's dislike of only using audio interviews over B-roll in this film. Having only audio in the interviews and Amy was definitely a choice of the director, as Yves Capetta also directed a movie, Senna, in 2010 in the same style. I think it works. We go to a film called Amy, and that's who we want to see. Who wants to look at her father, her clueless mother, or her enabling manager? Who cares? They're all going to look sad. Amy is a tragic story. What we want to hear is what we want is to hear their stories, what they liked about Amy, how she behaved. We don't want to be talked at. The point of a movie is to illustrate a story to the audience, and Amy does that. Amy Winehouse was a crazy talented young woman who desperately needed help. We get such a personal, in-depth look, and I'd hate for the editing style to distract you from a great film. Them's my thoughts, says Camille. That's an interesting point of view. Then I guess, I don't know, it might just come down to personal taste, because I think you could have walked the balance of seeing the faces and all, because again, as we said, the footage is amazing. They got all this great behind-the-scenes footage of Amy Winehouse.
Oh, yeah.
So I guess it's a personal choice thing.
Yeah.
Because I do want to see her dad and the regret, or what. I want to see that. I want to see that on her face. So.
And
thanks for the email, Camille. I appreciate that, and we always love hearing different points of view on that. That's very cool.
And also, we have
if you're wrong.
Yeah. We have a Mr. Holmes review. Speaking of being wrong, there's a Mr. Holmes review from Neil. He liked it a lot more than you did.
All right, so I'll take the hit on that one.
Yeah. So check that out on the site comedyfilmnerds.com.
The whole movie's just like, hello, I used to solve crimes, I did. You know what I mean? So that's where one a little wonky for me. Same thing with Amy Winehouse. Hello, I was a big celebrity.
I'm missing a 2 for 2, sure. Sorry, rest your soul, Amy.
It is a good docu. Like, here's the thing. Like, based on Camille's email, guys, I would love for any of you to watch this film and let us know where you think. Do you think that this director's choice actually worked for you as it did for Camille, or do you think that it should have had more faces? Are you face or voice?
So premiering this week, Mission Impossible: Rogue Nation.
I'm going to see it. I've seen all of them. I don't remember anything from any of them. I'm sure I'll go, that was cool. I'll hear the music. And like, none of these movies did I ever go, oh, fuck, have you seen the new Mission? I've never said that.
The first one was pretty awesome, right? Wasn't that directed by...
That one was okay, but the whole print that pissed me off was, what's his name? Peter Graves' character from the TV show, which was played by John Voight. Was the bad guy, and that's when I was like, "Come on!" That's like Alfred being the bad guy in a Dark Knight movie. You know what I mean? Like that was the only problem I had with that one.
I don't like these movies. I got to be honest. I liked the first one a little bit. I thought even the second one, but as they've progressed, they've gotten more and more ridiculous without acknowledging that they're ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like Fast and Furious, well, this is ridiculous, and we know it is.
Right.
But like the last couple have been like, we're going to take it seriously, and then every gadget has a core of magic in it. Like literally, it's a magic wand, like that can do anything, and at least base it somewhat in reality and science, or just acknowledge the fact that you're making a cartoon. Right. And it's gotten worse and worse and worse. Then like, we're cut off. All we have is this secret stash of cars, money, and ammo. Whatever are we going to do? So I'm not impressed with these movies. I'm not looking forward to it. I probably will not see it. But I did like the first. I just don't like where they're going. Yeah, I mean, they're making a big deal of Tom Cruise's plane stunt. That's always a little bit of a concern if a movie is putting that much emphasis on one stunt in the entire film. It makes you wonder, well, what does the rest of the movie look like? So
wasn't the last Mission Impossible, the whole hook was like, look, we're on the Burj Khalifa, the new tallest building in the world in Dubai.
Right.
Sure.
That was like their...
Yeah, with their magic frog suction things.
Yeah.
But anyway, I'm not on board. But we also have Vacation. This is
you want to talk about not on board? I cannot. This fucking trailer. The Griswold family, Chevy Chase, was believable as a dumb kind of dad. And of course, there was a couple scenes that went a little too far, but it was believable. That scene where they're swimming in the fucking
shit.
in the toxic filth, what you could drive by that at 50 miles an hour and go, "Oh, that's nasty. I'd never swim in it." No one is going to put that brown water in their mouth. Like, it's the dumbest. Like, get this fucking out of here.
I saw the trailer, and the guy next to me, in the scene where the Christy Brinkley-ish woman pulls up next to him, and they exchange glances, then she gets taken out by a Mack truck, oncoming traffic. The guy next to me in the movie theater was, I'm going to see it just for that. I'm like, and that's why it's going to make $500 million. Like, what do you mean see it just for that? You just saw that. Now you saw that. There's nothing else to that joke than what you saw.
I can't wait. Here it comes. Yeah.
Just watch the trailer 5 times.
God, fuck. Yeah. It looks so...
But now I want to rewatch the original Vacation because maybe it isn't as good as we remember it.
Could be. There could very well be, but I guarantee you there's no scene in there where they're just swimming in feces and fucking syringes and going, hey, is this a swim toy? Yeah. Come on, man. Like, this movie's fucking stupid. I'm going to see Mission Impossible before I see that.
Well, you know what? You've made a fair point. If I were going to see one of those two movies, now I would still see Mission Impossible as well.
Because Mission Impossible isn't going to, like, spit in your face.
No, it's not. It's just going to bore your face.
Right.
But anyway, the next movie is a Lego brickumentary. Now, I saw the trailer for this. We all played with Legos as kids, and what I find fascinating too is like when something like from pop culture becomes so ingrained where we played with it as kids. Our kids, my kids love Legos. They play with it. But also, you have this whole culture of collectors where they interview guys like, I spend 6 figures a year on Legos. And I'm thinking, first of all, how could you? Yeah. I mean, there aren't that many sets that come out in a year that you would spend 6 figures. But and you see like these amazing like displays of art that people create and all the things that they create out of Legos. They customize them and they buy the sets and they build, and it reminds me, I think this movie got made because of the success of the Lego movie, obviously. Especially,
but it's also just a part of our culture.
Yeah, it's definitely a part of our culture, and I want to see this movie because that fascinates me too. That collector part of it, where people just literally, this is a giant hobby for a lot of people, and they spend a lot of money on it. They create these elaborate landscapes and creations out of just like literally just these little bricks that you can buy as toys. And Legos, let's be honest, they've never been cheap. Even when we were kids, they've always been a little expensive. Like a little set is still expensive. Like now, my son wants the Shield helicarrier, for Christmas. It's a giant set. It's like $300.
What?
It's insane. Like they have these collector ones. Then they go on eBay, and it's the kind of thing where it's like action figures. Well, it's never been opened.
Yeah.
You have a box. Now these can be anywhere from $400 to $600. These just sets. And also you wonder too, it's not like an action figure that you could look through the packaging into the figure. Like you wonder if a collector's buying it, are you going to make it? Are you going to build it? Because a bunch of bricks in a box, it's not the same as like looking. So
it doesn't look cool in your shelf.
Yeah. So I think more, when collectors are buying them, I really think they're actually buying them and building them. So instead of like, no, we got to keep them in the box to keep the value.
Oh, all right.
So this really interests me. I think it's going to be a cool documentary, so I'll definitely be checking that out. And then I will see Mission Impossible, and no matter how much time I have, I will not be seeing Vacation.
I won't watch this on a plane on an international flight.
You should turn.
I was on a flight. I came back from Tulsa, and Get Hard was one of the movies I could watch on my flight from. I had to go through Houston, and I was like, I can't do it. I tried. The guy in the seat in front of me had it. I was like, all right. And I watched like 30 seconds and I was like, I can't do this. It's so dumb. Like I can't ever make this happen.
If Graham can't watch a movie on a plane, that's a problem. That's a marketing problem.
I've watched some dumb movies on planes.
As Pardo has said, I don't see that if it's playing in my glasses.
All right. Well, that's our show, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much. Andy Wood, where can people find you and your podcast on the World Wide Web?
You can go to probablyscience.com. You can follow me on Twitter at Andy T. Wood, or go to andytwood.com for just various things having to do with me.
And, of course, Probably Science will be at Podfest?
Yes.
Is Jesse going to be there? Probably yes,
I don't know, actually. It's possible, because 2 months from now... his chemo's probably... We'll see, I hope.
Okay.
Yeah. But we always bring in a great... Like last year we had Tim Minchin and a bonobo expert. It was a lot of fun.
It was an amazing... You had a great panel last year, man. And the room was packed.
Thanks.
And
yeah, it was fun.
It was really cool.
We all learned about the mating habits of lesbian bonobos and masturbating monkeys and stuff, yeah.
Well, I mean, if you don't know about bonobos by now, then they're sort of like Legos. They're part of your culture.
They're for collectors.
Yeah.
Have you ever eBayed a bonobo? It's great money. All right, guys, we'll go to lapodfest.com to buy your hard tickets to come to the festival and, of course, live stream and save $5 with coupon code either CFN or Science.
Yes.
Science!
And as always, we said, please support the Comedy Film Nerd store. There's a lot of stuff in there. We still have the Thrilling Adventure Hour DVDs.
Yeah, here's the thing we need to talk about, though.
Oh, yes, the earbud screenings.
Earbud screenings. I know we were talking about doing screenings in, like, independent theaters in, like, Melbourne and Sydney. That's not going to happen, and here's why. Ellen, you might be hearing this for the first time, but I'll email you. Kimberly Browning, who does the Hollywood Shorts Film Festival, is sort of our festival consultant, and she deals a lot with indie films and distributors. If we put earbuds in what's called four-walling, which is renting out an independent theater, and then we charge a ticket, and we get to keep that. If we do that, we
kill distribution.
We can't get distribution then, and we can't get into major festivals. So Kimberly just saw.
So we thought about it, and then we're not going to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, and so Kimberly watches, several movies a day for festival programming. She knows she's friends with all the big festivals, and she was like, "You guys' movie has a lot of heart and could really get into some big festivals and win some awards." And she goes, "The more awards you win, the more it can raise the value of it 2 to 3 times to distributors." So, we can do little screenings in a comedy club or something like that and call it just CFN movie night or preview.
Or preview screening, which is what we're going to be doing at Podfest.
At Podfest is a preview screening. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to still be coming to Australia, I think, in October to do stand-up anyway. And maybe we can set up some little screenings, stuff like that. But the great thing is with this film and this business model is if the festivals and the big distribution, they just make us crappy offers or it just doesn't pan out, 9
Or
months.
if it pulls a Dr. Moreau.
Yeah, it pulls a Dr. Moreau and we all go crazy. Then we can
still have options.
We can still have options. We will be taking this movie out and screening it ourselves and all this stuff. We just need to pursue the big options first. We got to chase the carrot a little bit. So I hope you guys understand. And we will,
It doesn't mean we're not coming and showing it theirs. It just means it'll be delayed a little bit.
It won't be happening like October, November.
Right.
We still might come to Tokyo.
Yes, we're still thinking about that.
We'll still see if we can make that happen. But that's what's up with that. So that's the Earbuds Update. So if you really want to see it, come to Los Angeles, September 18th through the 20th at the Sofitel. Yes. All right, guys, that is our show. Thank you to Andy Wood.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for suggesting such a delightful movie for me to watch.
Chris and I just watched all these awesome films while you're stuck in some sort of fucking, re-education camp.
Yeah. Clockwork Orange style.
All right. That is our show. My name is Graham Elwood.
And I'm Chris Mancini. And as always, remember,
Han shot first.
Voxels.
Voxels, thank you.